Okay, so here we are behind the wheel of a 2025 GLE450 with the new third generation MBUX system. So I'm just going to run through the technology in the car, basically every button, what it does, and how to use it. So the way I like to do this is basically work my way across just like you're reading a book. So start with the door and kind of work my way to the center. So on the door, most of this is going to be fairly common sense, you know, windows, auto up and down. You've got the lockout button for the back, locks, pretty straightforward. The mirrors, you know, if you want to adjust the right or the left, and then use this little joystick. The center button is if you want to fold the mirrors in while the vehicle's running. You can set it up to always have them folded in when locked, but if you were on a busy street and you wanted to fold them in while you're waiting for somebody or something, that's what that center button's for. Seat adjustment, you've got 16-way power adjustment, so forward, backward. You can raise and lower the front or the back of the seat. This little extra piece above is a thigh extension, so you can kind of make the seat grow or shrink between your legs. Headrests are power operated up and down, but they're manually operated forward and backward. There's a little button on the side, right there, that you press to kind of move it forward or backward. And then the seat back is adjusted with this little section here. So this is basically like your head, your torso, and your legs. So that's how you move things around. The trunk release is right there. You can open the trunk with the key, with this button, with your foot. There's a switch on the back, so lots of ways to do that. These buttons down here, people tend not to touch too much in their ownership experience. The parking brake's automatic, so it'll be engaged when you're in park. You put it in drive and it'll disengage. You put it in park, it'll re-engage. So this is more of a manual override if you ever needed to kind of force the vehicle into or out of parking brake. Same thing with the headlights. Most people just leave that in auto. So if you want, you can put your parking lights on, or you can force the lights on. But if you leave it in auto, they'll come on at night and turn off during the day. This is a fog light button, so some people do use that, where you get that extra little illumination. So fog lights in the front, and I think it brightens up the center light in the back. And then this last thing here, this is how bright your dash lights will be at night. So it's not going to do anything during the day, but at night you can roll that up or down to adjust the brightness of those there. Steering wheel adjustment is this little joystick here, so up and down, left and right. We've got some heating buttons, so heated seat, 3 levels of heating, and heated steering wheel is this little toggle switch. So forward is on, and you get a little indicator there, on, and you pull it towards yourself, and it goes off. This vehicle is equipped with cooled seats, so if I click that, we get blue light, which means fan blowing to cool me down. And this one also has the courtesy adjustment. So if I press this button, I don't know if you can see in the video, the little letter R indicates right-hand seat. So if I click that, these controls now control that seat. So if I press the heated seat button, see this didn't light up, but this side did. So I'm adjusting this seat. So if you get somebody in your car that's not familiar with Mercedes seat controls, you can say, oh, don't worry about it, I got you. Like, I can move your seat, I can put on your heated or cooled seats. It's good if you have children riding with you and they're, you know, not as adept at kind of getting things adjusted the way they would want them. So that's what that R is for. It's a take control of that seat button. The other physical controls in front of you here. So most people know Mercedes shifter is there. So it's pretty straightforward. It'll always show you down here what you're in. So the P is lit up right now. I'm in park mode, and the C means comfort, drive mode. So if I want to go from P to drive, I just go down, and I'm in D1, meaning first gear. So if I start driving, that 1 will change to 2, 3, 4. There's 9 gears. If I go up, I get my 360 camera, and I also get the little R. And when I'm in this view, I can click on these different cameras to change the view. I want to see, you know, what's in front of the car, what's behind the car, go back to the 360 view. And then park is the little button at the end. Now, a lot of people, when they're new to Mercedes, are kind of shy with this, and they just do a little half press. That's how you end up in neutral. So you want to be basically confident with your selection, unless you want to be in neutral. So if I could do a little half press, I'm going to end up in neutral. The paddles here will add or remove gears. So when I'm in drive, if I pull the paddle, see the D change to M? So that's manual shift mode. So that's basically driving the car like a manual transmission. You're pulling that paddle to change from first, second, third gear. If I want to end the manual shift mode, I just hold the paddle and it goes back to to D, meaning the car is taking over the control. So if you hit that by accident, you just hold it down and it'll go back to the car will take control. Now getting on to the actual buttons on the steering wheel. So this is more like the electronic controls. You'll notice that the top of the steering wheel has the same 3 buttons on both sides. The reason for that is you've got 2 screens in front of you, a big piece of glass with 2 screens, and you've got 2 hands when you're driving on the wheel. So if you want to go completely hands-free, or not hands-free, but keeping your hands on the wheel, you use these buttons here. So if I want to change what's on display here, I'd use my left hand, and if I wanted to control the center screen, I can use my left hand. Now this screen here, and also my head-up display, I don't know if you can see, but I have my speed. I adjust those here. So right now I'm in the classic gauge package. In the classic gauge, I can scroll down across this little OK. So I'm not actually clicking, I'm just sliding my finger across. And all those little gray dots that appeared, those are all options of what I can have displayed in the center. If I want to pick a different gauge package, I click the house, it kind of zooms out, and then I can swipe left or right, and these are all different gauge packages. So I can, I can see a service view of how many days till my next service, my engine oil level, and so on. There's an off-road view if I want to see what's going on, the telemetry data for off-roading. Driver assistance view, sort of Tesla-esque. It'll show you other vehicles on the road, pedestrians, things like that. We've got a navigation view. So if you're on a road trip and you want full screen nav. Classic, we've already seen. There's a sport view, which has like G-forces and will show you how much horsepower and torque the car is generating. And then finally, understated, which is my personal favorite, which is minimalist. So even the speed that you're not going, you don't need to see that. So it'll only show you the speed you're going and a clock, kind of very minimal. And within this one, if you click the OK button, you can actually change the color of the sunset that you view while you're driving. So yeah, I like that one, but a lot of people like the classic. Some people like the idea, the classic, you can have your nav as well. That's a popular one. But anyway, you customize it. The other kind of icons you're seeing, so this one has the driver assistance package. So this is active steering assist and active lane keep assist. You got the outside temperature. A lot of people wonder what this little P is. If you're going less than 35 kilometers an hour, because I'm in drive, it actually just means that park assist is available. If you drive by a parking spot, the car recognizes a little arrow will appear on the left or right of that. But we'll get into how to actually activate the park assist later. And then you've got your clock, your distance to empty with your fuel meter. And then over here we have our EQ meter. So this power and charge is showing, I'll put it in park, like how much the 48 volt system is providing in terms of power, and also when you're coasting or braking, it'll be putting energy back into that system. Now, where this vehicle is head-up display, that view finder here, when I was clicking the house and it zooms out, you might see kind of grayed out at the top. If I swipe upward, that is actually adjusting the head-up display. So now there's a sport head-up display, there's an off-road head-up display, there's an eco head-up display. So there's all these different views that you can choose from for your head-up display as well. Now the standard one, which is what most people use, it will add information if you're using different systems. So by default, it's just going to show me my speed and if the steering assist is active, and it will show me the speed limit if I'm in a zone, where it's recognized the speed limit. But if I'm on a phone call, it'll have like who you're talking to and how long you've been talking. If I'm using nav, it'll show that. If I'm in a parking garage and I'm getting close to another car, that'll pop up. So the head-up display will adjust based on kind of the use case of the car. Now, in that menu up at the top, if I go to the far right and I click on settings, in here I can actually adjust the position. So I can go up and down with the head-up display, and I can also go left and right, and I can adjust the brightness. So I'll adjust it right to the middle for now. And if I go way to the right, I can turn off the head-up display. So if I click that, it'll just actually shut the whole system off. So we'll put her back on. Yep. So that's the 3 buttons here and the 3 buttons here. These ones work the same way. If I want to go into something, click the OK. If I want to go back, click the back button. Or if I want to go back to the kind of the home screen, like the main 3 icons I've chosen, I click the house. Now these buttons are your cruise. So once I'm at speed and I wanted to use cruise control, I'd click on and set. We'll set a speed and it'll show me what speed I set, and I get this little icon that cruise control is active. And then if I click the top right button, this little car arrow, that's going to adjust my follow distance. So where this says active distance assist, I can choose how many car lengths I'm comfortable tracking the car in front of me. And you can see it also adjusts the image up here, so I know how many I've selected. If I wanted to add speed, so say I've locked in the speed limit at 105 and I wanted to be going 107, I would swipe up 2 times to add 2 kilometers. So it's just slide your finger along this little arrow, plus or minus, to add or deduct 1 kilometer an hour. If I were to click at the top or the bottom, that's going to add or deduct 10 kilometers an hour, and it'll round up. So if I'm going 105 and I click the top, it'll go to 110. But if I click it a second time, it'll go to 120, 130. So you can quickly add or deduct speed by clicking. Resume and cancel works like most cruise control systems. So if I were to hit the brake, it'll go into a temporary save state. If I click resume, it'll resume cruise control. Cancel is the same as pressing the brake. So if you want to keep the system active but just temporarily turn it off, that's what those buttons are for. And then if I click the on off button, then it's basically turning the cruise back off. Now the buttons on this side, the additional buttons, we've got a speech button. So that's one of the ways you can control the screen. So I can use my fingers on these 3 buttons. I do have a little trackpad here that also adjusts things, so I can swipe left and right. If you want to go into something, you just click, and a little house takes me back home. This one, because it's got a little bit more real estate, you can do things like, if I go into the navigation, I can do things like pinch to zoom on this little trackpad. This one also has a forward and backward button, which you don't have up here. That's a track change. So if you're listening to music and you want the next track, you can just swipe your finger across there, and you can see it just went to the next station just by swiping across those little arrows. Or if you're streaming music, it'll just go to the next song. The speech button, so you can call up a digital assistant within the car by clicking this button. And see the car is listening for instructions. The little crystalline white is focused on this side of the car because it's listening to the driver. If the passenger was speaking, it would go over that side. I can also bring this up completely hands-free by just saying, "Hey Mercedes," and I can give the car instructions that way. So see, it's listening now for instructions. And if you're driving by yourself, the car does have a lot of direct commands. So without even having to say, "Hey Mercedes," I could say, change track, for example, and it'll go to the next track. Or I could say, "Take me home," and it'll navigate home. Or, yeah, see, it heard,
no home
heard that. There's a whole list of them. I can show you where it is in the menu. But if you want to call up that assistant without having to say anything, you can click that button and the car starts listening for instruction. And pretty much anything electronically controlled, you can tell the car what you want it to do. So you can say, ambient light colors, turn on my heated seats, turn on my heated steering wheel, turn off the head-up display, open my roller sun blind, like really anything electronic that's not like a safety system. Like you can't tell it to turn off your cruise or go faster or things like that. But yeah, just play with it. It's very useful. The phone up and down buttons. So once your phone is paired, this would answer calls and hang up calls. And you also use the down button to hang up on Mercedes. So if you have her pop up and you didn't mean to, just clicking that hang up button hangs up on her. Oh, and I should mention this button here, by pressing it once, I'm speaking to the car. When your phone is paired, if you hold it down, it'll actually go to your phone. So right now a phone is not paired, so it's going to the connect device screen. But if I had my phone paired, I have an Apple device, that would actually call up Siri. So I could actually talk to Siri. And I can also use, instead of saying, "Hey Mercedes," I can say, "Hey Siri," and it'll speak to my phone, and the phone will basically respond on the screen. The star, so you might notice there's a star up here. If I click that, that brings down a menu of favorites. So Mercedes puts a few things in here by default, but you might say, "You know what, I never use the mobile browser in the car." So I hold down on that, delete that. I do like the consumption, I don't like this. So take the time to curate this and get it to be like 3 or 4 things that you use a lot, and that button becomes quite useful. You just click it and on the screen you get the things you want. You can add your own favorites by clicking here, and there's quite a few different systems that you can save as favorite. And then this vehicle also has gesture control. So you get to assign a driver gesture and a passenger gesture. So right now the driver gesture is set to massage. So I'll show you how that works. So there's a camera right here, that's watching for movement down here. So it will do things like, if I reach over to this side of the car at night, it'll turn on this light without me having to press anything, because it realizes, okay, they're reaching over there for a reason, let's give them some light. But if I throw up a kind of a peace sign, then it'll do whatever I've assigned to that gesture. So I didn't have to press any buttons. That little kind of peace sign below the camera will activate. So I just did it again, it turned off the massage. And it'll also recognize that peace sign coming from a passenger, and they can set their own gesture control too. So you get two gestures that you can create. The volume control, so you've got a conventional kind of rocker switch here, and if you want to mute, you click down on it. This one is touch sensitive, so I just swipe just like I would again on a phone screen. Just slide your finger up and down, and if I want to mute, I just click the little button at the bottom to turn off music. See, it heard me say that. Now, when you've got the music playing, you can also click this little cog that pops up and adjust your entertainment system. This one has the Burmeister audio, so again, I'll show you that when we get into the vehicle settings, but it's quite nice, the customizations you have in there. Let's continue with physical controls, and then we'll move on to the screen last. So your start stop button is here, and you do have the auto start stop button right next to it. So some people don't like that, where the vehicle shuts off when you come to a stop and it's up to temperature. If you want to disable it, you just click that button and it'll turn off the auto start stop. You'll see it comes up on the screen. The reason I put it right beside there is so that people that don't like it, they just click 1, 2 when they start the car, and it's disabled. Heating and air conditioning controls are pretty self-explanatory. You've got, add or deduct temperature from the driver and passenger. I can change the fan speed. Auto allows the car to decide where the air is going to blow and at what rate. Front and rear defrosters are here, and in between you've got your 4-way flashers. AC button, recirculated air, and then sync just means that right now they're out of sync. So this one's set to high, this is set to 28. If I click sync, then the driver's side is controlling both sides. So basically all of the temperature in the vehicle will be controlled by this one side. There's a couple of buttons here that are a little less intuitive. So the REST, that's residual engine heat. So if I turn off the vehicle, as long as the coolant temperature is high enough, I can click that button and I'll get residual engine heat blowing out of the vents for about half an hour. So it's like an anti-idling, if you're waiting for somebody and you want to be warm, but you don't want to have the engine running. So you turn off the engine, you click that button, and you'll have heat blowing out of the vents. And then the menu button, if I click that, then it pops up on the screen with some of these controls. So I can kind of customize where the air is blowing. I can adjust the temperature here. I can turn on my heated steering wheel. I don't want the vehicle to shut off. I can look at the air quality. This one has the ionizing filters, and it also has the fragrance. So this fragrance here, if I click that, see it says please insert fragrance file. So this one, we've got a little oil, basically a warmer here. Usually they come with a bottle of oil. It's probably in the trunk. Oh, actually, no, it's right there. So you place the little bottle of oil on there. When you click the fragrance button, it'll actually come through the vents for about 10 minutes or so. You can purchase them through parts department. There's 10 or 15 different fragrances available. So that's some additional adjustment. Where this vehicle is so heavily optioned, it has pretty much every feature available. But yeah, you access that so via menu, and then air quality, and there's your fragrance control. Now, the other buttons that are physical down here, we've got a little button here that will light up red or blue, and you see this will coincide. So that's for cooling or heating of beverages. So this is actually a strip of aluminum, and it actually gets almost frosty when it's on cold, and almost like, burn your fingers when it's hot. It's quite warm, so it does a very effective job of heating and cooling beverages. A wireless charging pad, so if you place your phone in there, then it'll charge while driving without being plugged in, and you do have a couple of USB-C plugs as well. The other buttons that flank the sides here, so dynamic is your drive mode. So you might remember I mentioned the little C means comfort. So if I click that, I get this image comes up on the screen, and so right now we're in sport mode, and that changed to an S. I can do eco mode. There's an off-road mode, which you have to kind of acknowledge I am truly off-road. And there's an individual mode. So individual, see how up in the top right here, a little cog appears when I go to individual? By default, individual is the same as comfort. All three settings are the same. But if I wanted to make my own, say I liked the stiffer steering feel of a sport mode, but I liked the other two being comfort, that's what individual is for. So you can click that cog and you make your own drive mode. And you can have the car prompt you at startup to initiate your drive mode. So if you like it to be kind of tweaked a little bit, you can have your own. So that's what the dynamic button is for. These other buttons are all, you might recognize the controls here. So navigation, phone, radio, navigation, phone, radio. This is vehicle settings, which is, it's also a picture of a car in here. So I click that, bring up settings. And this is your parking cameras. So if I click that, I get the 360 view and the top-down view. And this one, you can actually spin it all the way around. You can kind of zoom in or out with your fingers. I can, again, click on these camera views if I want to see a close-up of that part of the car. I can use this button here, will drop a pin on this parking spot. So it'll basically tell the car, this is a place I park a lot. So when I get close to this parking spot, bring up this view for me so I don't have to be in reverse to have my parking cameras. And then the little P is the same as this little P for the self-park. So if I click that, it brings up the view for park assist, where as I'm driving forward, you'll see these like sonar waves coming off of this car. And if there's a parking spot, it recognizes that I can fit in. If it's kind of perpendicular, that's a spot it would back into. And if it's parallel, it's a parallel parking spot where it would back itself into. So it's easier to show somebody in person. So I would suggest, we'll get somebody to actually show you in the car. But yeah, that's how you activate the park assist. This little square is a fingerprint recognizer. So if you want the additional security of having to scan your fingerprint every time you get in the car, you can set that up. So you do have driver profiles within the screen. I'll show you when we get to there. So that's a quick way to bring up your profile too, if you scan your fingerprint, or you can have the car recognize your voice and you can just say, bring up my driver profile, and it'll know who's speaking. This thing here, people wonder, what does it do? It's just to rest your wrist on while you're using this control. So it's literally just a comfort addition. This is a little spot for your key or whatnot. If the vehicle has airmatic ride height control, that adjustment would be there. This button opens your center armrest, and we do have a USB-C in here, as well as a little cubby that you can remove. The other physical controls, so your vents for heating and cooling, you can adjust the fan speed and they just move up and down, left and right. And up top we have some physical buttons. So we've got a bank of light buttons. So this is my reading light, that's the passenger side, that'll turn on all the lights or just the rear. And then this one, if that's turned off, then they won't turn on when you open your door. Most people want that on. The phone me means call Mercedes, I need help. That's your roadside button. So if you have a flat tire, you run out of fuel, something like that, it basically, anytime you'd need a tow truck, you press that button, somebody will come over the speakers from Mercedes saying, how can I help you? They know your vehicle location, they know what you're driving. So it's a really handy button. The SOS, that'll call emergency services. So that one you can't press by accident, it's under a safety switch. But if your phone is paired up, that'll call 911, and that'll automatically trigger if, I believe in a collision, if 2 or more airbags deploy, it'll call 911 for you. This control is for the sunroof, so just forward and backward to open or close the roof or the vent. And if you want to just let a little air in the back, you just push it upward to have it kind of do that little pop-up venting. So yeah, I think that's it for physical controls. So let's get into, oh, nope, there's one more. We've got Home Link. This one has 3 soft touch buttons under the mirror. If I press those, that little orange light flashing, that's the car saying, hey, I'm ready to learn your garage door code. So if I had a garage door opener and I held the button down, that'll start flashing green, meaning I've learned the code. And then this button basically replaces your garage door opener, so you don't have to have it stuck up here. When I get close to home, I just press that button, and you've got 3, so if you have a cottage or something. So now we're gonna get into the screen. So this is like the more techie stuff. So in the screen, I have a house, which will take me back to the the 3 icons I've chosen as my home 3. So that house there, it'll always take me here. And the reason I say the 3 icons I've chosen is because, like, say I like to change the ambient light color every time I drive. If I hold down my finger, I can actually move these icons around. So you can change the order and the positioning of the home screen. So you could have whatever you want be these first 3. But by default, it's going to be navigation, phone, and radio. That's what, you know, most people use those most frequently when they're driving. So that's what they create the default. If you kind of make changes to the screen or the layout of this stuff, you want to save that all to a driver profile. So when the Mercedes Me is activated, it'll recognize your phone when you need it, and it'll have your icon and it'll bring up your profile, but you can create additional profiles. So right now we're under use without user profile, but when a Mercedes Me account is paired, you could have 3 different driver profiles in the system. So if I like my gauges and you like sport gauges and you like the icons laid out a certain way and radio favorites, it'll remember all that digital stuff. So it's like the next generation of memory seat. It's memory of all this. So it's quite handy. That's what the little icon here, driver profiles. So let's get into each of these icons. The search button, if you ever have a question about the vehicle, you click that and that will search through the owner's manual, and it has like kind of tips and things. So you can ask the car, you know, about the car by clicking the search. But if I click on navigation, I get the map. I can do the pinch to zoom thing right on the screen. I can click where to enter a destination. I can change the view, so I can have top-down view. I can have always north facing north. If I want to recenter, I can click that. It'll still have your phone and your music down at the bottom. So some people like to drive with the nav on the screen all the time, so you still have that information available to you and your temperature. On the home screen, the little icons below, so if I click the house, it'll take me home. So we don't have a home address program, but it'll by default, you know, ask you where's your home, and you can save that. And the checkered flag just skips, instead of clicking here and clicking where to, that just jumps you right to the address entry where you can type in where you want to go. It will recognize like store names and you know, even just like navigate me to the local coffee shop, and it'll find the closest suggestions. Phone, so if I click that, if a phone is paired, it'll have your recent call list. You can bring up a dial pad. You can have 2 phones paired at the same time that'll both go through the audio system. You click the little Bluetooth button here if you want to choose which phone is going to stream music. So if I'm the driver, but say my wife wants to play something from her phone, we would go in there, click, you know, her phone for Bluetooth audio. Radio and media. So if I click on the radio icon, I get this view where I can swipe through and change stations. If I want to save a station as a favorite, the little star icon will throw it into my favorites bucket. So then the favorites will be, you know, just the things that I like as favorites. Down below here, we've got the, again, you can go in here and change the radio settings. Actually, I might go through that now. So when you've got the music playing, Pure is, I'm sitting in a music studio, a high-end music studio, and the artist is in front of me and he's playing to me. If I go surround, which is my preference, then the artist is behind me and beside me. It's all around, so you get a much fuller sound. If you have that, you can create your own personal sound profile as well. You've got a 3-band EQ, so a lot of people do like to pump up the bass a little bit. Like I like scooped mids, so more bass, more treble, and a little bit lower in the mid. Say somebody's sleeping in the back and I want to move the sound up to the front or just to me, or you can kind of move this all around. You can center it by clicking reset. And then sound focus, if you drive this car and there's nobody ever in the back seat, you can say, okay, just optimize the sound for the front. Or vice versa. If I'm playing audio, say for a movie that my kids are watching in the back, I can click that and it'll optimize the sound for the back. Or you can just have it optimized for all. So if there's people in the all seats. Loudness normalization. So this by default will be set to medium. This is just, it'll increase the sound of the audio system when you're either going faster on the highway, or if it recognizes exterior noise is higher. So you can either turn that off or you can adjust it up. So that's all under my radio tab. Now media is going to do the same thing, except that's playing music from your phone. So if your phone is paired, you click that, or you can do USB, where you load a bunch of music onto one of those little data sticks. It does have to be a USB-C. A lot of people buy a USB-A, but it's this kind of oval shaped USB. But if you load one of those up, you click it into any of these ports, you can stream music from that to the audio system. The MB apps, this isn't going to do much where my phone is not paired, but I've got the Mercedes Me system, and I can use browser to make this screen a mobile browser. But once we have the Me Connect account set up and a phone paired, a bunch of additional apps will pop up in here. There's games, there's a weather app, there's, it becomes much more fleshed out, that MB apps. Now the comfort, this is where you go in and you can change your ambient lighting. So all GLEs will have a 64 color ambient light system. You can go multicolor and you can pick kind of complementary colors. And if you have multicolor animation turned on, then like say I chose one of these ones where it's red and blue. For a little while this will be red and this will be blue, and then they'll actually switch. So you'll see the car, it almost like as the car is breathing color. Whatever colors you choose, it'll kind of be changing constantly. You can change the brightness, and effects by default are all on. So greeting effect for the ambient light. Climate just means if I push this down, I get blue light. If I push it up, I get red light, and passenger side as well. This one has the massage seat. So if I go into massage, I've got a bunch of different massages I can choose from. If I click one, I can choose if I want it to be intense or not, and I can basically turn it on or off. And because I have the massage seat, I also have power adjustable lumbar for the driver and front passenger. I've got side bolster adjustment, which will adjust how tightly this side bolsters hug me. Put that back to 0. I can adjust the heat setting, so some people like a little bit more heat on their back, a little less on their bottom, or vice versa, so you can adjust that. And then panel heating, if that's turned on, then the center armrest as well as this will also warm when I have my heated seat on, so that's a nice feature. Now most GLEs are going to have seat kinetics. Seat kinetics is kind of like massage light, so if you don't have the massage seat, you do have this system still where you can have the backrest, the seat surface. You can have lumbar activated as well. You can set a time length, and what it'll do if I turn it on is my seat every so often will just move slightly. So I'm gonna have the seat bottom move by an inch or so, and then maybe like 30 seconds later my seat back moves, and then my lumbar kind of puffs up a bit. And it's keeping you fresh on a long drive. It's keeping you from becoming fatigued. It's not massage, but it is going to help with an extended drive, or just kind of keeping you from sitting in the same position for a long period of time. So that's what seat kinetics is for. The off-road view, so if I click that, I get the same off-road view I had here, but I also have the option of clicking for the clear bonnet. So if I click that button, then I would have the ability to see basically through the hood what's right below, like between the front axles. I can lock it into manual shift mode, so if I'm kind of creeping through a gully and I don't want the vehicle to be shifting. You have downhill speed regulation, so if you want the vehicle to inch its way down a steep hill, you can click that and it'll take control of the braking and so on to inch you down. And I can turn off traction control. So if the wheels are spinning and the vehicle's cutting power, if you turn that off, they're still going to spin, but at least it's not going to be sapping your power. So that can be useful to get you out of a kind of a sticky situation. Info, if I click that tab, this is 3 pieces of information the vehicle always has available. So this is a running fuel consumption gauge. So I've been doing terribly because I'm sitting idling, but on an actual drive, this would be, how well you've done over the last 30 minutes, 90 minutes, 3 hours of driving. Vehicle is going to show information. So right now the vehicle is 1 degree forward. If I were to cut the wheel, it'll show, how much angle I've got. If I press the accelerator or the brake, it'll show what percentage I've pressed. And this is actually a better view if you're on a sporty drive and you want to see what's going on with the accelerator. You can see you get this nice bar graph. It'll show you how much boost pressure the engine's making, how much horsepower and torque. So it's kind of a fun view if you're on a sporty drive. And then this is a button to activate CarPlay or Android Auto. Now, when you pair your phone, it'll ask you if you want to activate that system. You'd say yes, and a little icon will appear here for CarPlay or Android Auto. This is just a duplicate of that button. So most people don't use this one very often because it's right here next to the house. And you just click that to bring up CarPlay. And then the last one, and probably the most involved, is settings. So if we go in here, we have 5 kind of categories across the top. They all have subcategories, and some of them have like subcategories. So there's quite a bit of adjustment. Obviously, this vehicle has a lot of features, and this is where you go in and you customize. So how much you like different systems to do things. So with the assistance, like I could say, you know, the active distance assist, I don't want you to adopt the speed limit. When I drive by a speed sign that's 100 and I'm going 110, please don't slow me down to 100. I like 110. Route-based is also, it's if the car knows via the navigation system what the speed limit is in a certain area, you might not want it to adjust to that speed limit if you've set your speed. Active steering assist is turned on, so that's where the vehicle will keep me in my lane. Active lane change assist, so if you've got that turned on, the vehicle will actually help you change lanes. So if I put my signal light on, this will actually kind of know, okay, he wants to go around that car in front of him, so that'll turn that on. Downhill speed regulation I already explained. Collision avoidance, so we go in here, active brake assist is on by default and set to medium, so that's where the vehicle will brake for you in the event of an impending collision. Active lane keep assist is on, so if I touch the line, it'll give me a little bit of steering correction. And active blind spot assist, so if somebody's in my blind spot, a little red light will appear in a triangle in either side. If I ignore that red light and I put my signal light on, it'll beep at me. It'll say, hey, there's somebody there, don't go. If active blind spot assist is on and I ignore both of those warnings and I start to pull into them, the steering wheel will actually fight me and say, hey, no, you're not pulling into that other car. So that's what that's for. Assistance, so we have traffic sign assist. So when I'm driving, it'll show me up in the top left here what the speed limit is in the vicinity of where I am. I can have a visual and audible warning if I exceed the speed limit, and you can set a threshold of up to 10 kilometers an hour. So most people are comfortable speeding a little bit, but you can set it up to 10. So if I'm in a 50 zone and I'm going 55, nothing's gonna happen. As soon as I hit 61, that little thing will flash just to say, hey, you know you're going 10 over now. And if I have audible turned on, then it'll flash and make a little noise. So that's what that's for. Attention assist is on. So by default, every 2 hours, the vehicle will suggest a coffee break for me. Or if it notices like little micro adjustments to the steering wheel, that's a sign of somebody who is fatigued and should probably take a break. So it'll pop up and say, you know, hey, it's time to stop for a coffee. If you're somebody who's prone to falling asleep at the wheel, you can make it more sensitive in here. And then camera is just if I want to clean the rear camera, because it's nested into the hatch, by default, it's going to be very clean most of the time. But say you were backing into a parking spot and somebody drove by and splashed gunk all over it. If I click that, it'll actually open while I'm in park, and I can go back and wipe the camera off, and then it'll just close back up again. Under vehicle, so we've got driving. I can lock the vehicle into manual shift mode. If I want to tell the car what type of trailer I'm pulling. Car wash mode, so that the sensors and so on don't go crazy while I'm driving through a car wash. We'll do all those things. I think that's it under driving. Comfort, so I can have easy entry exit turned on. So if I turn that on, what'll happen, I'm very tall, so it doesn't really do anything, but for somebody who's shorter, when you turn off the car, the steering wheel will go up and the seat will slide back. So it makes it easier for you to get in and out. So when you jump in the car and you start it, it'll kind of tuck you back in. It'll pull your seat back to the predetermined position. The steering wheel will come down. So it's a nice feature if you need a little extra room getting in and out. And then the roof blind, it's power operated right here, but you can do it electronically by clicking on that. Occupant protection, so occupant presence reminder. You'll see a little indicator will come up on the bottom of the screen just to tell you if it senses weight in any of the back seats. So, hey, you're leaving somebody behind. And belt adjustment, most people like that. What it'll do is when you click your seatbelt on before taking a journey, the vehicle will actually take a measurement of your body. You'll feel it kind of give you a little hug, and it helps with the airbag deployment and all of that. Open close, so I can have vehicle protection turned on. If I'm leaving, say, a dog in the car while I go into the store, you don't want that turned on because it'll think that somebody's breaking into your car. Automatic door locks, most people want that, where it'll lock the doors as you pull away. Acoustic lock, some people like it to honk when they lock. And then mirror folding, like I said, it'll fold the mirrors in. Dynamic select is if you want to change your custom drive mode. Light settings, you have ambient light, and you can also change how long your lights stay on when you get out of the car. System, this is where you go in and you can see like those direct commands, like I was saying, the things you can say to the car where you're not needing to say, hey, M. You can change some of the more global things like language, control elements, date and time. If I was, for example, if I go under display and I'm going to the States, I could click miles and then my gauges switch to miles per hour from kilometers per hour. An additional speedometer will always show both, so miles per hour and kilometers. So you can go into system and kind of go crazy adjusting things, but these are usually things you're only going to change once and then it'll be the way you like it. And then info is just going to show you which version of the software you have active, and the digital owner's manual. So your big book is actually accessible here. You can read it in the car. But yeah, that's the home screen, and I think that's the tech. So I hope that you enjoy this crazy long video. I hope you've learned something. And if you have any questions, Anthony Bell at O'Regan's Mercedes.